Okay, so I've recently been enjoying playing this variant called Minihouse, and it's basically just Crazy House, except for obviously you have less pieces on the board. There's no queens whatsoever, so that's one difference as well. Is that basically on the rules, if you promote your pawn, then you cannot get a queen. You can only get rook, knight, or bishop. Okay, and then also notice that you start on the square B2 with the white king, or for black it's the square G7. So there's no first rank. And so what that means, if your pawn is captured, if you capture your opponent's pawn, you're actually allowed to place it on your back rank, which is interesting, and I think it's a very edge use case. I don't think that would come up very often where that's needed. But yeah, maybe let me know in the comments down below if you've ever played a mini house game and you've needed to drop your pawn on the very first rank. But with that said, let's get into this game. Okay, so I know that the most common starting moves, you could play bishop c4, rook c7, and rook c5. These are the most common moves, and they make a lot of sense, right? If you play bishop c4, then it would be attacking the rook. If you play your rook all the way down, then it'd be attacking the bishop. But I elected for this move rook c5 because we're holding this knight in and kind of just holding back some of the squares and kind of just going for some control here. Okay, so the opponent plays knight f5, bishop c4. All these moves make a bunch of sense. We're trying to just activate our pieces here. I would say as far as the piece values go in Minihouse, I would say that since this pawn is definitely off on the side of the board, I haven't seen much use for this guy. Obviously it's a long-term plan to try and increase the value of your position by promoting. But other than that, if we think of the pawn as just staying as one, then yeah, perhaps the knight could be worth about 3, bishop maybe 3.5, and the rook, I wouldn't say it's quite worth 5 because the board is a little bit smaller, so I don't know, maybe like 4.6, who knows, something like that. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna try to threaten to promote this pawn, so that at least I can do something with my pieces in the meantime. And I want to keep the initiative, of course, because even though this is mini house, just like Crazy House, the initiative is super important. I don't want my opponent to capture my piece first and sort of gain initiative, so I'm going to use this corral pattern so that the bishop is going to be controlling all these squares that the knight can look at and just sort of go for control here. And then it's also really good that my bishop holds this square so that this rook can't have any ideas of creating this pin. Okay, they offer a trade. I say that's fine because then I will still sort of have the initiative there. So we keep pressing forward, giving the check, draw the king out, give the check again. So you can kind of see where this is going. We're just gonna not let off the gas pedal here. Okay, and then knight e3. I didn't want to exactly go for this check yet, because maybe after checking and then the king moves out of the way, exchanging, maybe the king will be a little bit less vulnerable to attack. So I had to check first and make sure that this bishop that he has in his bank is not going to be useful. So it was important to notice that after playing knight e3, that there's no fork or anything silly like that. So yeah, for now knight is controlling dark squares, but we'll soon see how we can remedy that. I don't really like this move at all. I think black probably had something better. They need to find some sort of better move. I'm not sure what they could do here. It is a pretty tough position, but this clearly just doesn't work because after capturing and then recapturing, all they've really done is drawn their rook over to the edge of the board, and it just doesn't seem like it really works. So now, since the knight is controlling all these dark squares, rook is doing a great job controlling all these squares. Then just bringing the bishop onto the light squares makes a ton of sense because now everything is just under control, and it's going to be really difficult for black to get back in this game. So giving a check, king comes up. I think this is also another mistake, because then we can get our pawn closer towards the end of the board. and giving this sacrifice here. I thought this sacrifice was working, and I'm pretty sure it is. So even though black found this nice little check, then they still have to recapture, otherwise they're going to be down material, and being down material in this is not a recipe for success. So after capturing, if we pause the video for a second, you can find the conclusion with the checkmate. Okay, so if you found, giving the knight check, and then we would have king coming into the corner, and now I can't use the c5 square, but the bishop just couldn't hold everything, so then the knight would have given a checkmate. So very interesting variant, and still pretty fun. I would say, to be honest, I think I enjoy Crazy House a bit more, but this is a fun little sideline into Minihouse. So I would say overall 8 out of 10, pretty solid variant, and I would enjoy it a lot and recommend it to you if you want to give it a try.